us are divided. We're united in our disgust and our love for these children. Today you have no name. Because when this all started, we all came together and said, let's stop even talking about his name, just his initials. So even media just called him Rick. That's all we want. We'll be back when the police officers don't want to do it. Told me what happened to my child. Told me what happened to Magnet. I don't think he was here. When I think my kids turned around and looked at me and said, what are we
Go to CCS and say, this is your turn, that's okay, y'all do that, have a discussion, blah, blah. Let me ask you, and read your side, just so that we have that in.
the hours? We had your white card.
Ready? Okay, we can go ahead and get started, and I do apologize for the delay. Sometimes technical issues get in our way. So, we can go ahead and start with the ready. Okay.
Ma'am, good morning, everyone. I would like to call Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, LOSFA Advisory Board meeting to order at 11 o'clock. We roll call, please.
Dr. Cable,
Present.
Ms. Garlino, present. Ms. Coleman, present. Ms. Gaines did, I believe, join us online, virtually. Ms. Hooper,
Present.
Mr. Inman, Ms. Lawson,
Here.
Mr. Myers,
Here.
Ms. Miller, here, Mr. Salter. We have 7 present, shows representative. 6.
All right, introductions and announcements. We have to. And that's kind of be worked around. Next slide. See, next one.
Dr. BJ, well, let's do this one, or do you want me to do this? No, he's not on.
Okay, we have a new student board member, and unfortunately, he can't be with us, but fortunately, he's on a summer intern in Dallas with a fabulous company, JP Morgan Chase. So I'm excited, but he is coming to us from SUBR, and we hope he will be doing this next meeting, Sean Inman. We're excited to work with him. He is going to school for business finance, so I'm sure he will find all our meetings and finance kind of interesting. Kind of interesting.
Next.
Everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. This is a personal privilege moment. My daughter graduated from LSU, May 16th in architecture from a very challenging program. Yes, and she also was honored with the Distinguished Student Communicator Award during this graduation period. So I'm just a proud mom. And I'm just looking forward to her journey in creating spaces and community, and she's super excited. Thank you again.
Y'all go away. People starts next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ronnie Green, I'm supervisor for the Start Savings Program. And here today I have Ms. Kathleen Dean. She's a graduate from Nichols State University. And she actually right now works on the disbursements and contacting schools and so on and so forth. And she's a very good asset to this team. She's been working really hard since she's been here. So I'm proud of her. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. We would like to introduce one of our newest team members, Ms. Yvette Johnson. And I have known Ms. Yvette for a very long time. She used to be the counselor at St. John High School.
and class. So, been knowing her a long time. She's been a phenomenal, individual in her role as a counselor. And now she is one of our comprehensive advising officers. So she is, working to Charnel, as her supervisor. So give her a round of applause. We're very happy.
We have more.
He's not down here. Mr. Darius Furlock, who's our other comprehensive advising officer, administrator. He graduated over the summer with his Master of Education degree in counseling. And so that was his day, and we celebrated him, of course. But if you know he's not here, I would like to also congratulate him on that milestone. And also, so we are actually going to do I think the digital media specialists are going to interview him because this is our other supervisor, our IAM supervisor, Danielle. This is her son, and he received MJ Foster Promise funding. And as a result of that, he is now with Warner Enterprises. So Danielle was basically kind of talking about like his when he first started and traveling and things like that, and just kind of the role that this agency and MJ Foster played in helping him to get that education and get into this role. So we'll be rolling something out with our digital media specialist, kind of like his testimony. We're really looking forward to that as well. Yeah.
We got a couple of these. So Hannah Lake, one of our digital media specialists, recently got engaged in May. So we're very excited for him. That took place at the Town Gardens in Birmingham. He had a different plan apparently, but thankfully his now fiance shared right before those plans that she thought people who did that. It was a silly way to do it. So thankfully, she let him know that right before this. Excited for him. Congratulations to all. Very excited to have him back. Currently, we're very glad that he was able to spend time with this edition of his family. So we're very, very happy for him. Thanks. And congratulations to Drew, who was the newest addition to the Granger family. So Laura and Andrew are spending their time with him. She texted me, came a little early, but he came on his sister's birthday, so they now share the same thing. So I told her that she can be safe on the party supplies. Yeah, unless you gotta do two different things. It's double the cost at one time. All right, I think that might be all I have. Yes.
Morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome Jason Haynes to our scholarship recognition. He works in the awards and the section. He brings a lot of experience to us, having worked over 20 years in financial aid at some university and BRCC. So College of Tennessee. But we're glad to have him here and help out with our team. Do you want to say Jason?
Well, glad to be here.
All right, thank you. Oh, yes. Shannon Harris works in our special programs section. She works with our regional college program, the Patriot Scholarship. And her youngest graduated from North Hillsville High School in May. And she will major in nursing and be a member of the renowned Southern University Box Band. So she's decided to start college and band practice and do all of that.
And we have bids. Bids, we have quite a few new people. We started hiring back in May or so, and our first person is Sharice. She came over to us from the Board of Regents, and we are very, very excited to have her because she is trying to help us get things in order in processes, documentation and stuff, which was sorely needed when we found out we had lots of retirements happening and realized we did not have the backup and stuff to make sure things happen. So Sharice, thank you so much for coming and making my life so much easier. We hired a slew of programmers because, as you have heard in in many meetings, we have constantly changing programs. And we were constantly having to go out to vendors. So we have Melvin, and unfortunately, they are working upstairs programming. So my programmers are not down here. But Melvin Matthews joined us, and you want to keep going, Ron? The next part, whoever's next. Reverend Breton joined us, and then our third programmer is Aditya Singh. And so they are all master's level programmers. So they came to us with not just some knowledge of what to do, but actually contextual programmatic knowledge. So they've been able to jump in and hit the ground running and excited with all the changes. And we also have to say congratulations to Ethan Mason, one of our other programmers who has been with us with the START program. Him and his lovely wife got married in May, and they had a beautiful, as you can see, wedding at the Shaw Center. I think there's something. That's very pretty. Then we had we had another baby born. So we had two infants. We had Andrew's son, and then we had Valgender Gill give birth to a little baby boy May 7th, as well as like Andrew and Laura. This one came early too. It seems like these babies want to come early all the time lately. So we are very happy with that.
Yeah. Don't forgive me, I'm gonna sit. Rob Rue, our part-time employment law specialist, welcomed his second grandchild a couple of months ago, and he is very excited about that. His wife is wanting to move to Arkansas, and we are doing everything we can to keep him here. So we wish us luck with that. And Miss Rhonda also has something to celebrate. To let y'all
So
know.
this is my last child, and if she would have been the first, there would have never been two more. She graduated on May 16th, and she will be attending Southeastern along with her sister, where she is gonna start out in psychology. She keeps asking for a genealogy degree, just FYI, Brad. But anyway, so yeah, but that's our whole big family right there. So that's my husband in the red, my son, and then my other daughter's kind of peeking behind the hat there, and then my mom who lives with us too. So, but yeah, so very proud of her. Unlike my other daughter, she is very shy, and she told me not to put this in Pelican Reef. She would hurt me. So, but I was like, I'm sneaking in at the advisory board meeting, so I snuck it in here. So, but yeah, so she's very excited. Starts Southeastern. We went to orientation last Wednesday, so she's all set and very excited. So, yeah, that's the last one. We'll be empty nesters come August 16th, which she has to move in. So. Now we'll move into the approval of the minutes. Everybody send it to those. I'll second. Marianne first, and Jacqueline second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Any public comment? Brian, have you received any public comment?
No, there are no public comments at this time.
Thank you. Now we will get into program updates. The first up is Able.
Hey, everyone. This is Ryan again with the Start Savings Program. As you can see, we have over 81,000 accounts with the Start Savings Program, and we're at 1.7 billion right now. For the K-12, we have 4,613, and right now that dollar amount is 39 million. And then for Able, we have 1,545 new accounts, and the dollar amount for that is 11.2 million, a little over that. So our total active accounts right now is over 87,000, and then the total is 1.8 billion. So right now we are ahead of schedule. with these numbers, normally they increase. This dollar amount usually happens around the end of the year, but right now, we're already at 1.9 million. So we're looking to get to where by December to have like 1.9 million, almost to 2 billion. Other than that, that's it. Did anybody have any questions?
Okay, thank you.
I do want to insert a comment here, just to let y'all know at our next meeting, there will be some ranking dealing with these programs. The One Bill, Big Beautiful Bill Act contains some provisions related to city programs. So I will bring that next month. I didn't want to do it to y'all or to myself this month. Because as you saw, I'm sure there is already plenty of rulemaking to review this month. So I just wanted to let y'all be aware that next month we will have some rulemaking for these programs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning. So we will start off, as we usually be looking at our events and outreach. So we had a total of, this is through the end of June. We had more since then, but a total of 924 events, between face-to-face and virtual. And then for virtual office hours through June 30th, done a total of 234. And you'll notice that the bulk of those are MJ Foster Promise. Next slide. Thank you. And this is one of our comprehensive advising officers, Ms. Delarisha Ventress. She is at a event hosted by one of the sororities, Sigma Gamma Rho, and she was able to reach about 55 individuals, and they discussed financial aid as well as the different types of scholarships, grants, and loans, tips for actually applying for that aid. This is the LOSFA conference, which is the Louisiana Association of Student Assistance Programs, and this is their annual conference that was held in New Orleans this year. Kylie and I participated. We were on a panel where we discussed the FAFSA and kind of the impact that some of the changes at the federal level may or may not have on law school programs and how we kind of do our FAFSA campaigns. And then also Ms. Lacongo was there as well for the duration of the conference, and she had a table set up with LOSFA resources. And this is Summer. She is located in Monroe, and she's been very active with the veterans community there. She attended the resource fair, and then she also attends, they have, I think, like monthly impact coalition where she is able to kind of partner with other individuals in the veterans community to kind of make sure we're able to have resources available for those individuals. This is our Career Ignite Expo. We're not our, but we were there. And typically when they kind of do these expos, they have like games and giveaways and things of that nature just to kind of keep it interactive with students there. So this was a pretty large event with over 1,000 students there, 8th graders, but they were able to share information with about law school programs to those students. Another sorority event, this time Delta Sigma Theta, and so they powered with the Leadership Institute, which is located here, and they hosted a conference called Empowering the Whole Youth. And about 250 students, but they were again able to share information on TOPS, college access, and other programs that we administer. And 2 of our members from our partnership team attended the Energy Apprenticeship and Second Chance Career Fair. So they were able to speak to those students, which is sponsored through the Urban League, and they were able to speak with those individuals. Again, about law school program. People that were in the audience included students who may have been reentry students, which again, we do have that focus on justice impacted students. And then also promoting MJ Foster, because she did have
there who are looking to kind of enter the job field. So that, of course, is what we promote. We have lots of fun giveaways. We may be able to kind of see on the table that Nick has out there for Foster. We also had a senior swap day with over 300 high school seniors. That's LaConda. She's one of our comprehensive advising officers, but she was able to help students check on their FAFSA status, make sure that they were on track for earning TOPS, like if they're in 12th grade, and then also just provide any other information that they need. We had several orientations with RPCC. We had two of our team members, LaConda and Haley, did several sessions with RPCC where they spoke to students about TOPS, TOPS Tech, and then also MJ Foster. And I think this is 80 kids in Indiana, but we had two of our regional CAOs, who's the outreach coordinator now. But those two individuals facilitated this event where 80 kids is actually like just some involved students, students who are at risk, but they were able to talk to those students about the college access and process, financial aid resources, and then also some of the additional supports that they need to have access to in order for them to be able to access and matriculate through college. And then Ms. Charnel, who is also here, seated behind me, attended the LAHEC Summit. Not only did they attend, several of the CAOs were there to provide information for those individuals at the summit, but Charnel actually spoke to some of those professionals about the work that LOSFA does, and more importantly, about the work of the student network, which she and her group facilitate. And Mr. Damian Papillon, Capri stands for Capital Area Prison Reentry Initiative. And so I've talked about this before, about Capri, that they kind of meet at different locations in the Baton Rouge area. But basically it's like an event where all of these different entities come together to serve individuals who are re-entering or who have re-entered society. So again, this falls under that justice impact cohort that we have been assisting over the past 2 years with the grant that we have. We did a virtual Go FAFSA tour. If you look down at the bottom, it says as 620, number 20, we're now number 17 as far as FAFSA completion ranking. But we kind of split the state up into regions for this. So just to make it a little bit easier for us to kind of do the one-on-one, so we wouldn't have like a bunch of people on a virtual call. We just kind of broke it up, put it out on social media, share it with our counselors, to share it with their families. But this was a way for them to kind of get hands-on FAFSA completion assistance. And we have a partnership with Special Olympics Louisiana, that is Shane's team. But you see some of our team members that are there with those athletes across the state. And for the Special Olympics, the program that we highlight is LA Able. So that's what those individuals may have disabilities. And then we also did orientations with Northwestern, usually over the summer. We have a number of orientations that is kind of spread out all over the state, basically to give those incoming freshmen information about TOPS. And Ms. Devora and I, Ms. Devora's behind me, went to the dual enrollment task force meeting, and we were asked to basically present information on TOPS Tech early start. And that particular task force is made up of K-12, higher ed, and government leaders. So we're able to provide information on that. They had a chance to ask several questions. We also had an adult education resource fair. We had one of our CAOs, that is LaConda, who is pictured, and she was able to attend PRCC's trio EOC Adult Education Resource Fair. And so there were a decent number of individuals there that she was able to assist. And again, even alongside justice impacted individuals, we have a outreach coordinator who is specifically tasked with adult and non-traditional education or non-traditional students. So this all kind of, we've seen an uptake in the number of students that fall in that population that we serve, the number of events that serve that population has increased. Then we also did the Future for College and Career Expo. This was Chelsea, she's located like in that Acadiana region. And this one was hosted or facilitated by the Lafayette Parish School System. So anytime you're kind of at these expos, usually you're there, students are there helping them with FAFSA, TOPS, the law school program questions, early questions that they may have about the college access process. And this was one of our student network groups, where they had Miss Rolanda Brown. That name probably sounds familiar to you because she is with LAC, who has a partnership with. And so she was able to do this webinar, basically talking about resume writing and interview tips. And the comprehensive advising officers, alongside Charnel, are responsible for facilitating those student network groups. Then we also had a MJ Foster Promise Program Scholar Connect, which is facilitated by, again, Danny and Pacquiao, handles those, working alongside Trudy and some of our other team members as we go into another academic year to make sure these Scholar Connect programs continue. And then we had our student network, the SMG is what that stands for, the completion celebration. So they do wrap up the end of the academic year in May with the final student network celebration. And so during that celebration, Dr. Boutte was one of the speakers, and also Dr. LOSFA with the Board of Regents. And so they were able to speak to the students, kind of give them some encouragement to wrap up another year before we get started again. And then they were able to award the nursing scholarship. And so just a big shout out to our digital media specialists, Hammond and Destiny, for creating student testimonial videos that we actually showed during that event. MJ Foster was featured in the Journal of Higher Education, and the article that it was tied to was called "Do State Financial Aid Policies Increase College Enrollment and Completion for Adult Learners." So that link, that research article should link to the actual journal. So if it's in your packet, you should be able to access it. But it does basically talk about MJ Foster, and what they found is that it looks like MJ Foster did have a positive impact on adult enrollment, particularly at two-year post-secondary institutions.
The other states do something like the MJ Foster. Do you have any idea?
I do not. It looks like this particular journal looked at like 10 other states that have like similar promise programs.
There are several states that have promise programs, but MJ is one of the few that is like ours. So very few are first dollar, and very few are for adult. Like I would probably say we are probably one of the only promise programs that actually target adults. Maybe Tennessee has one that's like a reconnect program, but like their traditional promise program is for high school. And I think there's a website it's like collegepromiseprograms.com or something like that, but it lists all of the promise programs.
Thank you. So this is our Salesforce case activity. And usually when I come, we kind of look at the metrics or what have you, look at the data. So as most people in this room know, June is the beginning of comprehensive eligibility. And so that's kind of when we start going into this period of time for us in regards to phone calls, email, as students are looking for their award. And then also on top of that, we have the opening of the MJ Foster Promise application. So busy times for us. What we do is that there is kind of a shift in the division of labor. Normally, we have our intake and assistance officers who are kind of front lines of communication. So they're, answering calls, answering emails, chat. And then we have our outreach coordinators who are responsible for kind of moving their individual initiatives. We talked about our adult and non-traditional learner. We have the individual that is the liaison counselor. So we have several outreach coordinators who also kind of serve as a second tier of support in dealing with students who may have complex issues that like something is wrong with their award. You know, my ACT score is missing, something that's preventing them from being made eligible for TOPS. And then we have our comprehensive advising officers who do like the hand holding and the advice for those students who just kind of need additional direction and resources. So what we do during the summer, my favorite saying during summer is that if one of us is suffering, all of us are suffering. So we have a division of labor that kind of takes some of the sting out of it and kind of spreads the work out so that we're all kind of pulling the load. The IAOs are not like overwhelmed because we got like in 2 days, like over 400 phone calls. Over 2 days, over like 300 emails, or something crazy. So things are starting to kind of go off the rails, which is normal. So what we do is that our outreach coordinators take on the responsibility of responding to emails, which allows our intake and assistance officers to focus on phone calls and chat. And then our comprehensive advising officers take over our virtual office hours. So it's kind of a win-win. It spreads the work out. And then for the students who contact us, it allows us to have that much of a faster response because we're answering emails as soon as they come in, because that's pretty much what they've been tagging instead of having one person doing everything. And so as of the end of June, over 2,400 cases resolving complex issues or providing comprehensive advising have been closed. The IAOs and the outreach coordinators had over 150 open cases, but we're actively working on issues that are like preventing somebody's award from being determined. So as we get deeper into summer, that number is going to increase. And so we continue to just, as those calls and emails come in, to create those cases and work through them so that we can make sure those students get awarded and are able to start up in the fall with their award. Our CAOs, of course, they don't close cases as fast. They're the ones that are doing the advising. So their cases tend to stay open a little bit longer, but they currently, well, as of the end of June, had 369 open cases, which brought our total number of cases at that point to 539. And as usual, that's really small, but you can see that there are a number of issues as to why we have cases that are created. The bulk of those are usually students who are looking for additional types of aid, or it's students with multiple issues. So it's Dr. Butte says that what had happened was, where it's not just one thing, it's kind of a culmination of issues where they reach out to us for assistance. And Miss Anna, who is also here, facilitated our home study webinar. So each year we do home study webinars. We invite the Louisiana Department of Education to present information as well. Usually some of the post-secondary partners to chime in. So that's where we talk to home study students and parents about eligibility for TOPS, what we need in terms of documentation. And then the LDOE is also able to chime in from like the home study perspective, like registering for the program, and then of course the post-secondary partners chime in regards to what they may need as home study students applying to that institution. And then we also did our TOPS Tech orientation, and so those are going to be for each summer with TOPS Tech orientation for previous year graduates. So this year we did our orientation for our 2024 high school graduates who are eligible for TOPS Tech, because of course their deadline to use their award is fall of 2025. So we were able to kind of revisit what TOPS Tech is, how you can use it, where you can use it, roll out those new pathways that students have made available for them, and then we follow up with them post-webinar and answer any questions they may have, or check with them to see if they're currently in a program maybe that just hasn't been doing anything like that. So we got some really good responses back to this webinar, and they were really excited about their windows and other pathways.
Question on, okay, I'm sure everybody else knows this, but I don't know. you have not utilized them, how do you contact them? They're already in your system, our system, because they got the award, but they didn't use it. Correct.
We processed them for eligibility, but they did not get payment, so they never accepted the award.
Okay, so in the system are people who are students who are eligible. Was that just one of your programming things? Okay. Yeah,
It would have been from them filling out the FAFSA or the top application
Right.
or the ACT.
okay,
There's multiple pathways, but once we process you for eligibility, you have from that time to 1 year anniversary. So
Right.
you can take that gap. But you have that 1 year anniversary, and Fox Tech is the lowest acceptance rate we know, because so many of the students don't realize we use it more. So we started this program a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and it seems to like have a nice little uptick when they're getting ready to complete that they realize, oh wait, I can't go get, I can do what I wanted at first, but I can go into this program. So it gives you information and hopefully brings up the acceptance rates.
I think based on many years of personal experience, that's really a key thing that people need to know is the follow-up for students who are not, they're not what I would call active participants, but they're in the system, and that lots, we go out and we say, how can we help you? Let's get this. And I think that's really key for people to understand that, you know, you're not just thrown out there. No one cares about you.
Right.
Congratulations. I think that's great. Appreciate you bringing that forward.
Thank you. And then we also have our TOPS informational webinars. We have one more that is scheduled for tomorrow, actually. So this is kind of unique in that typically when we do events, a lot of the times it's like somebody will request we come out to a school, we'll do a presentation. What we've started to do is basically just on our own, kind of do an agency facilitated informational webinar that's just open to the general public. And so that means regardless of what school you're at, you can get this information. So we promote it on social media, we promote it with our counselors. So it's just a really good way to get this information into the hands of the people who need it and make sure that wherever they are, you have access to it. You know, wherever you are, it's virtual, so you can just hop on, ask questions afterwards, and send them a link to the recording, compile all of the questions that they may have had, and then we send all that information out to them so they have it at their disposal along with some of the other resources that we have. And so, of course, the questions have been about TOPS excellence, you know, so we're able to, as we go through the different sessions, as more information becomes available, it's like, okay, now this is legit, you know, science into law, now we can like really answer questions about TOPS excellence. But it's been had good attendance for these past two, and I expect we'll have good attendance for the one tomorrow. Yeah.
Question. So outside of social media and getting the information out to the counselors, how do you notify the students that this at the top of the information webinars are going on and they're open to the
That's usually the two biggest ones, I would say, is social media, and I've seen it shared. And I think just looking at the attending.
is there like a calendar, or should I instruct the students you want to stay up to date on the social media pages?
Tell them to follow us on Instagram.
Now, we are gonna make some changes to the homepage. To have carousel and feature specific events, programs like this. So that we can sort of access the policies. Reaching students directly is a bit of a challenge with social media and classes, things like that. That's why for the streets and browsers or the schools, they really have to go through the parents and speaking also. There's that very.
Next. And so then we also did, in partnership with Board of Regents, did a webinar for the post-secondary institutions about TOPS Tech and universal transfer pathway. And so for those of you who are not aware, there are several transfer pathways where students start off at a 2-year institution, earn their associates, and then they go on to a specified 4-year institution to finish up and earn their bachelor's. So some of those pathways are TOPS Tech eligible, which really expands. I mean, there are several for engineering, kinesiology, so it really opens up what was once kind of more like narrow, list, of courses or programs that they can enroll in. Really excited about this. And we're able to facilitate this webinar for post-secondary institutions in case they had questions about, hey, because it was effective starting 24, 25, that had been years. So there may have been students who are already in the pathway. It's like, hey, if you have students who are in these pathways, they're eligible to use their TOPS Tech, even though traditionally, you were in an engineering pathway before, you would have been use it, now you can. So really excited about that. And Sean wants to.
Well, there's 16 total, and we've been told by board regions they are developing additional ones that in development. So, if nothing changes with other legislation that we can get into later about how some of the WAVE programs are approved, if that doesn't make any differences, there will be quite a few new pathways that students will be able to utilize their TOPS Tech. We're hoping that as well increases that acceptance rate because TOPS Tech is the lowest acceptance rate that we have.
Our extra emphasis on TOPS Tech and universal pathways in marketing, which is and more information about that. Awesome.
The universal, the Board of Regents created the universal patent transfer pathway.
They did, along with the articulation matrix, that's part of that articulation and matrix, I think one of the legislators a couple of years back, about 10 years back, pushed real hard for it.
Right.
And that's part of the matrix that allows seamless transfer, and this is a seamless transfer.
Yes. Who are these people? So this was a convening with SHIO, which is done in Alexandria. This is actually a closed convening, so it's not something that they put out and everybody goes to. It started off as 8 states at the convening, it's grown to 17. And so when the opportunity came to kind of for Louisiana, who do you think would be individuals that like voices that would be useful or helpful to the FAFSA conversation in your state? Of course, Brad, who is very knowledgeable about all things FAFSA, and Christy, her perspective as a counselor, were 2 of the individuals that I was like, they're input would be great. So we were able to travel to Virginia for this particular convening, and it's really small, like we were in one room for both days, really small, but the information that they give is just so like relevant that I would prefer that smaller setting to some of the other professional development conferences I've been to. But some of the things that we were able to do is that being in that space with other states, kind of listening to the challenges that they're experiencing, kind of questions being asked, things that we may experience here. They really like the fact that we have a high school counselor, because I don't know if they had any other high school counselors there to kind of give that that perspective. And so we also kind of had share out sessions on that last day where we kind of talked about state grants. I can't remember which one was talked about, but I know I speak. But just very nice convening. It was nice to get to hang out with you guys outside of the advisory board. But anybody have anything to tell me?
It was really cool to be able to like speak with the national FAFSA director and like his team and to hear their perspective of what they're doing. So we had gone a couple years before and with I think Indian. And so like having that perspective and then hearing this side, and then there were changes that were coming in, and then the people that advocated DC were there too at the table. And so that was a great experience for me, taking what I know, what they know, and bringing it together. So
Yeah, and I had a lot of good information shared, but also very interesting to see how other states administer the programs. One of the things that still kind of gets by me, so to speak, is that a lot of states allow institutions to determine their award amounts, and it's based off of bills. So what they ran into a lot of issues that they noted was that in some cases they overbill the programs. And so they don't know the funding levels going into spring, which causes a lot of chaos. And it kind of highlighted that
very, very well in Louisiana. It's a lot more controlled. Your allocations are set up front end, so you know how much you have to award and spend, and then, students enrolled, allocated, and not have to worry about drawing a group of students. Hey, we're expecting this, but we're taking money down because they don't have it. And so, just a big kudos to the Wayne.
Thank you. And one of the things is that, FSA, Federal Student Aid was there, and they were like, that is probably as many times that I've interacted or been, at conferences with federal student staff. I think because it was such a small group, they were really they were relaxed, and they were just I was like, this is good. So it was, this is one of the preferred ones now that I've been to a couple of them, just because the information that they give you is so there's no love, everything that they're giving you is something that you're going to be able to bring back and use. Next. And then we had a professional development day. This is kind of post-merger with our student engagement division. So we are now one of the larger divisions, or maybe the largest divisions. They split us up during competitions, so we won't win, which I don't think is fair, but it's okay. But we had a professional development day just to kind of help the team gel. And Shane actually was responsible for the facilitated event. Dr. Marianne Colley, who you see she has her little guitar out. So she did a really great job of kind of getting everybody together and talk about it.
So all of her approach is all research based. She originally started working with college students, but over the past several years has started working with more professional organizations and agencies. And so her focus is creating community, communicating across different generational groups, having teams understand the role that they play as part of the larger team, and how we all work together and collaborate. So really, really well. The way she does it is very, very engaging, very clever, how she relates it to music and being part of the band, putting the band together. And so if you're ever looking for someone to work with a team, Dr. Collin, so we're still trying to do more things we talked about. So wasn't done. Discuss.
And then we also did a lunch and learn for the justice impacted students. And you see Abel Burgess up there. She's kind of the face of justice impacted work that we do here with the agency. During this lunch and learn, it was basically about understanding trauma and stigma to support those students. So you see us down there in the picture. When we're down here, we were able to kind of in between some of the breaks, kind of watch the webinar and also have a period to engage amongst ourselves and kind of talk about best practices and kind of some of the things that we can incorporate into the work that we do. And this was the NCHEP conference in New Orleans that we went to. Again, this is through that grant that we have, the Ascendium grant with NCAN, which actually will be ending in September. But this has allowed us kind of in these spaces where we typically are not. We are kind of building a plane as it is flying in regards to prison education programs, just working with justice impacted students, because the challenge is that really right now, nationally, statewide, there's really no framework. And so what we've also found out is that state agencies are even more being because there aren't many state agencies in other states again that are in this space that operate in the manner that we do. Several months ago, our team shared some of the case studies that they did with justice impacted individuals. And so that work is also recognized when we're at these different professional development areas. And with the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, April has worked on that. She completed that webinar series. Basically, April was our adult and non-traditional learner with our outreach coordinator. Now she is our partnership and engagement administrator. And so she does bring a wealth of information, even with MJ Foster. She has a heart for adult learners, just impacted. She is in the role of the partnership person able to use that to basically help Shane and his Tom's team and building our partnership, with the agency and all the other. And I don't know what her certificate is, but I promise it was there. This event has hit the ground running. And she has already completed her NCAN certified advisor badge, which is like 22, 23 courses, so it's a lot. But it's super helpful in helping like kind of refresh in regards to like ACT, FAFSA, how to help different sets of students, things of that nature, but she has completed that. And then this is April again, you know, just speaking to the work that she does in her role as kind of a lead for justice impacted individuals and the work that we do. And so this was the NASFA Prison Education Program. With this particular summit, not only did we do like, you know, we had classes or had sessions or what have you, but at the end, there is an orientation simulation where you basically, they give you a packet and it's like, okay, this is who you are. And you're able to kind of go through the process. And what it does is that it basically shows you different challenges that they encounter, right? I think Kylie got sent back to jail multiple times. You know, she had money. She was like in jail the other day. She's like, you didn't bail me out. I'm like, I gotta go like get my identification. And one of the things that we hope to bring away from that is to be able to host a reentry simulation on our own. There's a way for us to get that information, and they basically train on how to facilitate one of those orientations. But it was really
Try to catch us up on some time. So as part of our partnerships, our team met with Expert Virtual Reality to go through a demonstration. They are going to participate on upcoming LOSFA membership. So our team is working to identify more partners to participate in that event, which will be extraordinarily well. Last November, it's working to be better. Next. Nick and Haley participated in our JC partnership run, so it's been now really trying to find more community partners so that we can partner with them to share our resources that we have. So our community partnerships is sort of twofold. It's us working with them so that we can share our resources and programs, operations that they serve. Also identifying resources and services that they can provide, bring back to the students that work directly in our network groups and our direct advising, being aware of resources that we can add to our database that we can share as well. April participated in our, we have a partnership with this report, Malaria Group, Studio E, all in the same umbrella. But they hosted influential women in business launching. So April, since she is our team lead for partnerships, had her there in order to make some contacts. So while our team is always out and about, this advertising partner that we had graciously offered us a ticket to this event. So we'll be able to take advantage of that. April has made some contacts. Oh, okay. So this is one we get excited about these. So this was our most recent school tour that we had with our partnership with LHC group. So Tanya has worked more closely with Charmel and the SG group and bringing in some of its advisors as well. So we talk about their exploration. They can meet people who work in these different fields, they can expose to different fields that they can work in. Can really see what they need to do, where the potential is, and where to explore the pathway. So we are trying to do these questions. We're trying to do these quarterly to expose as many of the different schools in these regions to large industry partners that we have. So this is serving as a model of what we're trying to do across the state. So again, some other partnerships that I'll be able to talk about and touch on this meeting, but present some more developments on the next meeting. So this is actually a little further along now, but we have the auctioneer system. We are in the final stages of getting that agreement installed. So it is us working with them working with us, so that we can share resources that we have. So being part of their employee events, so that we know staff situation, college exploration, college application, share information on our fraudulent saving programs, and to have them participate in our student network groups, perhaps sponsor some activities that we're looking for, participate in some of our other statewide initiatives that we have. And so we're continuing to grow the so it's in the little departments of both areas to make sure everything's good. So the spot signatures will be in this. We're expecting this once launched early in the summer. For employee engagement, which they did a really great job of the team and rallying our team together to participate on these different events, come up with events for our team to participate in, not just here in the office, but as well. It's a hard walk campaign, something that's worked on for quite some time, unfortunately, in this world. So they had Heart Health Week, they had the basket raffle, which this is the one that I made your team in, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I misunderstood, I guess. Yes. So they were selling raffle tickets. I bought a bunch of them. So I thought, okay, that goes towards my team because I bought them. And I went to put them in the basket. And I went, I like that. I'll win this one. What was Ebony's team's basket? And I helped her win because I put my tickets in hers. But then I won the basket.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So that's one all around. But they told me after that happened, I had done. So exactly. And so they raised almost $800 for that initiative. Next slide. Okay, and then of course, as part of our employee engagement, our intake assistance officers, they had a pizza party for meeting. And I was getting about the call answer that we had. And if you want to touch on exactly what that means,
So the call answer rate basically is kind of looking at how many calls actually came in and how many of those we answered. You have calls that come in that may get transferred. You have calls that may come in that never actually come to us. They may drop a queue. But we're really proud of the fact that last year we had an 82% answer rate. And this year, the fourth quarter, they had a 95% answer rate. And then for the 24-25 year to end it, a 91% call answer rate. So really proud of that, particularly the volume of calls that come in over the summer. Just the fact that we're making ourselves available to the public. That when they call us, we're here to answer. A lot of the times pick up the phone and they're like, oh, somebody answered. It's like, yeah, we're gonna answer. And so also highlighting the LOSFA 2.0, this is where we made those structural changes where we dedicated a team of staff members just to first line of defense, phone calls, emails. So this is basically just evidence of that working well.
Cutting down waiting time. All of that, so people aren't hanging up waiting for somebody to talk to. So next. Oh, so part of our communications, we have our council communication that goes out monthly that Haley works on assembling. And so we share some resources there with our TOPS processing checklist. So all the information about processing webinars, the transfer system, and the award system. So they've got that information about processing and also updates for our TOPS web page. We're almost done with that. We have some more links. If you have a chance to go explore that, you can provide your feedback. If you think something might not be as clear as it is on our side, and just we're so clear with it. And then we're doing a total revamp on our counselors program as well to make that as useful as possible. So we've been revamping different sections of our website, but I definitely want to highlight those two. I'll share more information about where so April was College Commitment and Entertainment Month, so we shared a lot of information about making that college decision, so we can prepare for college signing day. So making sure the students are on track to make those final decisions and make that decision on where they plan to attend in the fall. Also, issue the summer as well. So that's sort of part of this campaign. relatives, this summer melt as well. So keep them engaged after they've made that decision. And so I'll share some results from that campaign. Oh, so National Apprenticeship Day, so they moved National Apprenticeship Day from November to April. We're still going to keep our Apprenticeship Expo in November because we think the time is close. But in order to have something for National Apprenticeship Day, we actually launched an apprenticeship page. So that's to share opportunities with students about apprenticeships that are available to them, what apprenticeships are, highlighting our partners, and then also having in place for partners to be able to go from a direction to they would like to participate. And that's one of our partners in our virtual apprenticeship expo, or to be featured on our website as well. And then some of our media mentions for their discussions and legislation about changes that are going to take place at the top program. And the Louisiana Illuminator did a story on that. Louisiana Illuminator again, Piper does a lot of coverage, I'm sure all of you aware on higher education. So this with the testimony that just took place of Ms. Taylor, wife of Dr. Taylor, discussed concerns that she had, potential changes to the program, and it's also highlighted. And then also more discussions about changes to the top scholarship program with the and then we opened the application for the Boston Promise and the change to the 8 requirement that was highlighted across the Louisiana Network. They do a really good job. Anytime we send out a press release or something, making sure they feature that it's in Boston Networks. Always very appreciative of okay. Our social media metrics from March through almost the end of June. So our total views, over 250,000, so that's the number of times that it has shown up. Twice, over 96,000 individuals saw the content during the period. And almost 20,000 engagement, so that's likes, shares, comments, clicks. So we're seeing our team is being very intentional about trying to increase the views, the reach, and engagement. Content, how they share the content, types of content. Next. Top performing posts, our BJ Boston Promise program, the reels that we had, how to prepare for fee bills. You're trying to put on more information, like that's geared towards checklists, things that make sure that they're in certain points in the year, and graduation posts. So try to develop that, congratulations. Thanks. Here is our current account where we are with our social media followers. Facebook, of course, continues to dominate. Parents is really that's the top way of getting our message and it gets disseminated to the students. So we're really trying to be very intentional about messaging and tailoring it to the specific audience. And then our website traffic. So from in March to the end of June, 1,000 page views, 136,000 sessions, and 82,000. And then over 82,000 users. So TOPS has taken back its writing spot as our top page, our college access page, which we now feature in our publications. So that drives more traffic there. The TOPS Opportunity Scholarship, Student Hub, and DJ Foster there. Yeah, but it's at least in our top pages. So you can also see where our referrals are coming from. Then our organic, so people are looking for information on scholarships, information on college access, and finding the staff. Yeah. Thanks. Well, you know, there's room for more slides. So, we'll see what we can do with it.
afternoon, I only have 3 slides. Our Gold Grant, program ended June 30th. We were able to reallocate the remaining, balance. But the way that program works, refunds come in after the end of the fiscal year, it becomes income not available, so I think we've had like $3,000 of refunds that have come in since that time. But the allocation, the bulletin with the allocations for the 25-26 academic year will go out this week, hopefully, later today or early tomorrow. And schools will have that. On our John R. Justice student loan update, we have given out all of the awards for our public defenders. So 5 attorneys who work either as public defenders, state or federal, with dispersed $10,000 each. On the prosecutor side, we've given out 8 awards and we have 2 remaining. So we should be close to getting those done. And then we're working on the applications for our youth award. This award, in a 2-year cycle, so get $100,000 dispersed. For the new year, it's based on the federal funding, how much they have, and how many states participate. We're only gonna have $67,000 for the next cycle. But we're waiting to apply for the year after that and see what comes up with John R. Justice.
And will you reduce the amount of people that can apply, or will you reduce the total dollar amount that they receive since it's 7,000?
It has to be because prosecutors traditionally make more than public defenders, their award is having with the public defenders get. So that has to be an equal amount among prosecutors and public defenders. So we always do more prosecutors, 2 per circuit, and then public defenders 1 per circuit. So basically, it'll be the same number of awards, but the dollar amount will be less based on the funding available. Thank you. Next. The MJ Foster update, this is historical data. So since the inception of the program, we have received 17,905 applications. Currently, we're working on a bulletin that will go out, with the, discontinued programs going forward and how we're gonna handle the billing for this year. The funding is $9.9 billion. So the money will probably not last as long as it did this past year, but, that'll be going out to and see where it goes.
You guys have a date on that, like with the bulletin?
It's gonna be it's in its final editing stages, so it should go out. We're not sure it's gonna be just one bulletin with processing guidelines and then another with the discontinued programs and how that works, but maybe all combined. Devin is the administrator for special programs. We were just talking about that earlier, so depends on how we get back and huddle up, we'll see what happens with that, but it's in the final stages. Our Go Youth Challenge program, we gave out 2 in the fall and 4 in the spring. We're working with the youth YCP, the Youth Challenge programs sites. There's 1 in Minden, 1 in Carville, and 1 in Pineville for those eligible students. The program just got refunded this academic year, so hopefully we have $3,000 to spend down. That may last us a couple of more years. I guess back in May, yeah. I help out neighbors. Kimberly Chapman is the financial aid wellness director, and she does a lot of podcasts related to financial aid and student loans. And we did that one in May because they were just getting ready to ramp up collections for people who had loans that were on pause during the COVID and everything. So we talked about that, collection practices and ways students can avoid defaults. So that's just me again. That's it.
You can advance it. Hi, everybody. All right. So you can see as a topics comparison for this particular year, we are above where we were last year at 280. I want to say that our allocation has been reduced to around 282, which will be the same allocation for next year. So we will be looking very, very carefully next year. We've alerted the Board of Regents that we will give updates on TOPS expenditures late September, October. We will give again updates in November to see where the legislative impacts that you're going to be looking at rulemaking for, how that's going to impact TOPS. Because as you can see, this is very, very close to the 282 this year. And next year we have significant additions to the eligibility requirements, some of which we're not going to be able to estimate until we get bills coming in. So that's what we have to say for TOPS right now. Okay, you can advance it, Rhonda. Okay, the other update that I wanted to provide you on is the new award amount. That is one that will also impact us, which is the Excellence Award. Thanks to the really, really super collaborative work between SG, Legal, and BITS. They have programmed in warp speed the Excellence Award. We have processed over 1,400 students for excellence thus far. We'll have to see what the acceptance rates are on that. While the students are being processed and they are being notified that they have the Excellence Award, what we don't have yet is the award amounts. That amount is determined from the tuition and fee survey that is submitted by the post-secondary institutions to the Board of Regents. We have not received that from them as of yet. So as soon as we do, we will be able to fill in those particular award amounts. The other recent hot off the press document that we just got yesterday is the CLT Classic Learning Test Concordant scores. In other words, what the Board of Regents considers to be equivalent to the benchmarks for TOPS Opportunity Performance, Honors, and TOPS Tech. And we will be processing that if and when we receive scores for the Classic Learning Test. It is my understanding that we have not received those scores yet, but we are ready to be able to process them when we do. So just a huge hats off to the programming staff that Shauna introduced to you earlier, existing staff, and the team for really, this was a Herculean task of getting this done to be in place for 24-25. The other thing that we are waiting on is recertification of grades according to the 10-point scale bill. So as those grades come in from non-public schools, we will reprocess those students, and some of them who were not eligible for TOPS before will become eligible, and some who were right on the bubble with GPA may become eligible for higher awards. But again, we are processing that information as soon as it comes in. So hats off to the team and miss you guys, but I'm sure you don't want me in the room right now. So hopefully I'll see you next month.
And just to add one additional quick information, the TOPS appropriation for next year is actually 285 million. We were set at 282, which was kind of a $14 million cut from this current year, but they did add 3 million in for the Excellence Award. We don't know if that's going to be enough to fully fund excellence or what it will fund, but that was what they put in HB1 to appropriate if that law had passed, which it did. So now we're at 285, and see, like Juan mentioned, we will be updating you guys and Board of Regents as soon as we have billings and know what's going on with it.
Thanks, Shauna. I knew that. And again, I got asked that question this morning while we're on the meeting, is whether we were going to limit that $3 million to Excellence Awards. And we cannot do that. That $3 million for specifically because of the addition of excellence cannot be dedicated to excellence. There's no way to do that. So if the TOPS pot is 285, then the TOPS pot is 285. And so that is what we would have to do. We estimated, I think, 700 and some students accepting excellence. We've processed 1,410. So again, all of that remains to be seen, which is why that October and November update is going to be very critical for LOSFA to say, hey, this is what we're looking like for spring. So we're going to keep our eyes on the results of all of these changes. Thanks, Shauna.
Before we get into the new business, I know Mary Ann asked a couple of questions earlier about like the FAFSA updates, like all of the changes that came in the big beautiful bill, and like where you might see some impact. I can give you like a real high level update of a couple of things that I think that will impact our colleges. One, FAFSA assets. There's an asset question on there, particularly around like fisheries and things like that. Like we may in farms, so we may see some adjustments in that space. Student loan limits, particularly for students who are part-time, they're going to have their loan eligibility prorated, which has not traditionally happened in the past. And there's some additional, I think, guidance in the way that colleges can deny loan eligibility to students as well. A lot of things around student loan repayment that are happening that are going to impact our colleges. And then Pell Grant eligibility, particularly for students who are receiving full rides. So traditionally, Pell has been an entitlement. So if you received a full scholarship to pay your tuition, you still received your Pell Grant. Now they're saying if you receive your Pell Grant and you receive a full ride, you don't get the Pell. So they're basically eliminating Pell eligibility for students who are receiving full ride scholarships. Up to like the cost of attendance. So if you're thinking someone who's got like a $20,000, aid package, they would lose out. Some of the other things that were in various bills that did not make it in, we're happy about is like Pell for part-time, that didn't make it in. Changing full-time eligibility, that didn't make it in. Workforce Pell is another area that's going to be something that we're waiting to see what's going to happen. So there's some new program eligibility for shorter-term programs will now be eligible for Pell Grant. But all of this likely has to go through some form of negotiated rulemaking, potentially. So either FSA can decide to do negotiated rulemaking, or they can forego it and they can come up with their own rules. But in either case, they have to have those rules in place and published by November 1st for this to be effective by July 1, 2026, which they've said that is the effective date. We'll wait and see if that actually happens or not. Because negotiated rulemaking is a pretty intense process. You've got to get people to participate, and usually it's like a 1 or 2 day thing. And then, so I'm not quite sure. I anticipate we're going to get some information from the feds probably in the next couple of months on like the direction that we're going to go. Is 900 pages of that bill. So we'll see. A couple of other things that are kind of like financial aid adjacent that I would like to bring up is adult education does not have their funding right now. So they typically get their funding like I guess allocation earlier in the year. We didn't even get our notice until late, and then right after that, the feds came out and said, like, just kidding, you still can't have your money. So adult education does not have funding at all as of right now. Some have carryover from the previous year, but that may only last some of our providers like a month or two. So if you're like working with individuals who may be contacting LOSFA, in order to get into college, MJ Foster Promise, for example, you can be co-enrolled in adult ed and a college program to receive funding. But if you don't have an adult ed program because you have no money, we have no option there. We're hoping that the feds are just doing some clarifications around adult education and that we will receive funding hopefully by September 30th. But just know that this is a massive problem. We have 22 providers across the state. This impacts every single one of those providers, both college and nonprofit organizations. And adult ed is not in the president's budget next year. Neither is Perkins. So we're like, there's a lot of things happening at the federal level around funding that is adjacent to financial aid will impact the work that we do. That brings me to some citizenship status documentation. So there's a state law that was recently passed, and then there was a clarification of a federal law around services to undocumented students. And so that's forcing institutions of higher education to review their statuses for individuals, whether or not they're citizens or not, and then there's a reporting requirement at the state level where colleges have to report the number of citizens and non-citizens that are receiving services in higher ed, it can be health services, it can be a variety of things. For some colleges, they may already accept some of this documentation. For an open admissions institution like us, we're gonna have to build in some verification pieces there. This also impacts adult ed and CTE. Adult ed traditionally serves a population of students that are undocumented. And now they have to have some type of verification there. We're not saying that they can't provide it. We're saying that we have to have diligence to provide and collect verification of citizenship status. This also is going to impact K through 12 because they are also, again, it's not that you can't provide service, it's that you have to have a mechanism in place, particularly for CTE and Perkins. So like if you are in a high school in New Orleans and you have undocumented students, as of today, those students are not eligible to participate in CTE programs based on that most recent federal verification. So at the LCTCS, we're kind of navigating all of this because it's all current law. It's not, they gave us no runway for implementation. And the federal law is just a clarification. So we're doing some due diligence around how we're going to collect this information at the admissions application. We're working with secondary folks at LPO to just try to establish what verification process will happen there and how do we use that for open enrollment. So there's a lot of other things happening in the world that are adjacent to financial aid that will impact financial aid. So Mary Ann, there's your update.
Thank you. A couple of things to add to that.
No, you reminded me why I was confused and I
Yeah.
had a hard time keeping up with all. Thank you.
So, a couple of other things in the bill that will be a little more impactful from a university standpoint. Effective starting next fall, the Graduate Plus program is eliminated. So it is gone for new borrowers. So students an existing borrower, and they received it at some point, or they continue enrollment, they have a legacy provision that allows it for a certain period of time, but then that is gone. That program is effectively limited to new graduate student enrollment next fall. They do not have access to Graduate Plus loans. So what that would do is shift a lot of debt burden on the pathways to the private sector. Take that for what you will. There's pros and cons there as well. There are also new borrowing that are going to impact everybody. So Parent Plus loans are now limited to $20,000 annually and a lifetime per student of $65,000. So it is extremely restricted. Depends on the institution and kind of how much they borrow on a regular basis. But that is a new lifetime cap that never existed prior. It was a new credit gets approved and you can borrow each year and then move forward. So that will be impactful for a lot of institutions and there will be students who are looking for other funding sources. There will also be new borrowing limits starting next fall that are modified for all levels. So undergraduate students, the aggregate lifetime borrowing limit is now decreased from $57,500 to $50,000. So lifetime cuts it down a little bit. More impactful will be graduate students. Graduate students are previously had $138,500. Now they're limited to $100,000. So cut a significant amount of lifetime borrowing out for their eligibility. Healthcare professionals have cut. Yep.
With the graduate students, is for new students that have never gotten a grad plus, how are they gonna even get up to that 1,000? Or is that only
That is
applicable to the
specific to unsubsidized loans. Plus loans do not count towards these aggregate limits.
Okay.
Your standard sub lifetime borrowing limits.
Okay.
Programs, but for context, graduate students can borrow up to $20,500 annually in unsub loans. But they're unsub and sub loans from the undergraduate year also count against the $100,000 lifetime cap, so it's.
Yeah.
You all. In addition to that, there's healthcare limitations that they've implemented for healthcare providers, so they now have, or really professional students is how they define it, and that's doctoral level, like, they specify in medicine, stuff like that. That's now a lifetime cap of $200,000. Again, grant plus loans are eliminated, so that can't come in and fill the gap. And then I think that's pretty much in terms of the aggregates. Well, that's just the lower pieces. That's just part. So there's ripple effects that are gonna come from all of this, the students are gonna be looking for funding sources. A lot of these students, when they go to school, they rely on the plus loans to fill housing, meals, et cetera, because they're in a professional program, they can't work. So when my wife was a PA in PA school, she was not allowed to work. So she had to utilize Grant Plus to fill the housing gap. While she was in PA school, that's no longer an option. So a lot of this ownership in the private sector was not bound by the same credit restrictions or generous credit eligibility that the federal loans had previously. So there's a lot of shifting that's going to go on with borrowing that's going to happen of what's available to students as they fund their education going forward, primarily lifetime. So again, you're still kind of, you're not decreasing the amount per years per se, but you are increasing the lifetime availability. Maybe for the students who are in school for a little while. In addition to that, the just as a clarification on what Amy was talking about earlier with the assets. So with the Simplification Act, the Department of Education amended it to effectively now include small businesses and farm value in asset calculation. So prior to that, it used to be at 100 full-time employees or more, then you reported your business worth. Following the Simplification Act, if you had one employee yourself, you had to report the value of your small business as an asset, which then counted against your ability. That's what was fixed in this bill. They put it back to how it was prior to the Simplification Act, but they also included fishing businesses as well. So basically saying, if you have a small business of one person, you don't want to do it. Outside of that, the only other thing I kind of wanted to note, this is something that'll be a longer-term deal. But there are new institutional regulations related to outcomes or an accountability metric for institutions. So for institutions that offer undergraduate programs, the average earnings for students following a 4-year cohort post-graduation must be higher than a cohort of working adults between the ages of 25 to 34 from high school diploma. So if you have an undergraduate degree and the average earnings is less than a high school graduate, they will lose Title IV eligibility. And they can kind of like 8.1, yeah, it's similar premise. The one that would be interesting that's going to be more important for these universities is graduate programs. The median earnings must exceed the lower of the state or national medians for working adults or field specific peers with an undergraduate. So a graduate program and a graduate student graduates from a graduate program, their median earnings must be higher than an undergraduate program that's either a similar field study or an average. So I always use one as social worker, for example. Social workers typically don't make a significant amount of money, but the program costs are high. If the institution's program has higher program costs and the median earnings are lower than undergraduate average, they lose funding for that program. So you could start seeing a lot of graduate programs that are very much impacted depending on the debt versus what the median earnings are going to be those strategies.
So what happens if you have a graduate who, let's just say, got a master's in social work, went out to the field and decided that wasn't for them, and then they changed careers, but they still have the credentials?
They're still lumped into the cohort with completers, and that's for all these methods. They're all part of the completers. The one benefit that they did fix in the bill is that they do not include non-program completers in these methods. So previously they said anybody that was ever in the program, whether they completed or not, we're going to engage now to just program completers who are engaged.
Regardless of whether they met any licensing requirements.
Correct.
You said it's by program. So you might have a student who's in computer science and all of a sudden that program is not eligible for it.
If their average earnings, or their median earnings rather, are less than an undergraduate degree, of a similar zip code or something
Right.
along those lines.
It's like gainful employment too.
Right.
Which is interesting, so I mean, you might be in English, you might be in computer science, and you might not be able to apply, eventually you might be.
Right.
Same school, same circumstances, everything else, that's just crazy.
Right, so they're basically just saying that the whole idea behind this, that your graduates should benefit from the education they receive in your institution.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they should be able to go to the career field and make more money than the average high school graduate in the state. They should be better off for the education they receive. The graduate one is a little bit more disparate just because of the natural being other needs.
And I think you're gonna, I mean, me, I would want to see how business industry are gonna react to this, because like, if I have, you know, a Canadian ambulance in Lafayette wanting me to pump out a lot of EMTs, but then they're not meeting the average earning, they're gonna have to respond, otherwise that program is not eligible, right? So we're gonna have to be having a conversation between business and industry as it relates to this program that we're offering.
There's gonna be a push pull there. And then the other thing that remains to be seen is for example, graduate programs, with the Access to Graduate Plus loan, the private sector, how do they respond as it relates to lending for high debt, but low earning programs? Are they more restricted by program? Study now to say, okay, well, a student going into this program, because Grad Plus loan is coming from the gap, they're applying for this amount of money, but we know the earnings for that nature is something lower, we're not gonna lend them as much money.
So potentially, the only social workers that will be out there will be those whose families have money,
The credit or.
but they have no personal experience or even experience through friends.
Right. Well, and so the idea with
What their counsel.
with the selective lending, that is a presumption, there's
I-
nothing that's being discussed about that, but it's something to
Very
consideration.
well planned.
It's something just to be mindful of, it could be a long-term impact, how the private sector. Another thing that institutions may end up start doing is, Louisiana doesn't do a ton of it, but income share agreements with institutions where students agree to repay a percentage of their annual income every year for 10 years post graduation to the institution. And so the institution's effectively floating in the money on the front end, saying, okay, we're gonna give you $5,000 a year, and take off your tuition either however they want to account for it. But then 10 years, for the next 10 years post graduation, you have to pay us 6% of your earnings. And or until the debt's made, whichever is, occurs first. And so that way the institutions are assuming that their liability either themselves or through a partnership with a financial institution. But that might be a gap filler for a lot of those programs. But whether or not they dip into that or not, it just depends. FSA's coming out with regulations that are very much mandated saying they're still considered private loans. Like, don't mix it up. You're still lending students or giving them credit or even college. You're giving them resources, so you have to account for it in your student eligibility. But it's just who owns the benefits. And so there's a lot of innovation I think that will come from this. I think there will be a lot of cost shifting that might come from this for a lot of programs because resource availability is going to drive a lot of costs. And so where all of this lands is going to be probably 3, 4, 5 years from now before it actually settles on equilibrium.
And we get a new administration, which is still on.
Correct.
We'll see.
And then it's not for it.
All right, now we have 5 items for new business, hopefully this get through these quickly. So the first new business item is that LOSFA advisory board for rulemaking to implement Act 59 of the 2025 regular session of the Louisiana legislature with respect to the Go Teach program.
So what this bill does is makes Go Teach funding first restricted dollar instead of last restricted dollar, which is fabulous for students who are going into teaching because they can use this money first to apply to tuition fees and instructional materials, which means they can actually get Go Teach and TOPS and Pell if they qualify, or any other type of institutional aid. Before, there were few and far between who would qualify for much Go Teach, if any. So this is a really big change for this program.
I assume it got its own appropriation.
There is a fund, but it did not increase, it's still 2.5. Or 2.3, or 2.5.
$5 million for like 3 years.
So it's,
Yeah, so we're. Just 200-something thousand for the, 20% of the funding for all certification and 80%, so it's a little bit over, right around 2 million total.
Yeah.
But the money continues on, so we didn't use a lot, we're going into our fourth year. Did 22, 23, and then it's going to the fourth year, so there's still money in there, but we anticipate using a lot more because of the change, so it's just institutional and, LOSFA, state aid and, institutional aid is all of that. Federal aid was never looked at this time.
All right, motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Christie, second. Lindsay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays. Motion passes. The second, that the LOSFA advisory board consider rulemaking to implement Act 152 of the 2025 regular session of the Louisiana legislature with respect to the NJ Foster Promise Program.
oh. Donna was talking to me. I'm sorry. Okay, so what this act does is provide that the MJ Foster Promise Advisory Council will now not only improve programs for MJ Foster Promise, but also for TOPS Tech and for TOPS Tech Early Start. The programs do not necessarily have to align. They don't have to all be the same, but that council will be improving those. And we do have confirmation from the Secretary of Workforce that there will be no changes in those programs for TOPS Tech or for TOPS Tech Early Start for this year. So we do have that. That is all.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
Catherine, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays. Number 3, that the LOSFA advisory board consider rulemaking to implement Acts 152, 347, 268, and 359, the 2025 regular session of the Louisiana legislature with respect to TOPS Tech, and TOPS Tech Early Start, and to add courses as equivalents in the TOPS core curriculum.
I know that's a mouthful. Okay.
Better not be any discussion to get it out.
So Act 152, I just, the rulemaking that we just talked about with the MJ Foster rules is added into this rulemaking because this is all the TOPS rulemaking. 347 was the excellence of the board, so the rulemaking implements those provisions. It is all over the place. And CLT, the classic learning test. There are changes throughout the rulemaking, which adds excellence and classic learning test in there. Now, in the conference committee for 347, they added a provision to the effect that if one of the other bills passed, the Wilder's bill, I don't remember which bill that it is by number. If his bill for the 10-point grading scale, if the home study bill passed and the excellence bill passed, then home study students would not be able to qualify with the classic learning test. It doesn't have the lower ACT option. Yes. Yes. Wow. That's, and at this point, we are only aware of one school in the state that accepts CLT in lieu of ACT or SAT, and that it is Louisiana Christian.
Right, and I just received an email actually from CLT because I've been talking about the last way out. And they let us know that they sent a marketing, or their marketing team sent an email to all Louisiana families who had taken the CLT in June. And they've only had one student so far that has said, please share my CLT score with talks. So we're waiting that, but we told them how we do it with ACT and SAT, and we have code, but they have to tell us. If we can't just take your data, you've got to make sure that they know that you're sharing with us. So far, one student has said share.
So, is that mentioned? Assuming updating on the comps eligibility for multi students, so they clear that the CLT would not be acceptable.
It already has been.
The rules are changing. But we've already updated all the websites and the brochures are working on all the changes, but we've been communicating as quickly as we can.
Yes, and Shane's team and Heather's team have also been very active in this. Let's see, at 3:56, all schools must utilize a 10-point grading scale only for the purposes of TOPS. So they can continue to use their 93 to 100 as an A, etc. on down. But for purposes of reporting to STS or TOPS, they all have to use a 10-point grading scale. If the public schools this went into effect for this past year, as a result, they made this applicable to the private schools for 24-25 as well. And guidance went out, and it's in the law that if the public schools had not done it for 24-25, they had to go back and calculate. And if the private schools had already submitted grades, they had to go and resubmit for this purpose.
So the schools could still have a 93 to 100, but then they would have to go in and if they had a 92, they had to change that for the submission.
For STS, for TOPS purposes.
And that's for
TOPS.
TOPS.
Right.
Just graduated, yeah.
And DOE sent out a matrix showing like if you have a 92, this is what you're gonna have to change for just TOPS stuff.
Yeah.
So it was very specific, and I know SGA had an update. You know, if those been updated research.
You know, it's kind of above my pay grade. They were emailing back and forth about it, and they haven't resubmitted anything.
Well, that's the issue, since they don't have to certify, you don't certify
Yeah.
grade, you just submit them.
Right.
When we get a new submission and we pull it into the system, it automatically processes, so we don't know what the process will be because you changed it for the grading scale or because something else changed.
I think they were gonna change it.
Right, they haven't told us, we know we have one student who is questioning and it's SJA graduate and, so the email came out earlier to ask if you knew they've done it yet or not. So
We email her.
That's what I was asking, because I had somebody reach out to me that was at a private school and they were looking at their eligibility and they were right on the bubble. So,
Yeah.
so they were not gonna be eligible until, but now hearing this, they might potentially.
Yes.
Right, and if I'm right, right, so they had, it's in the law that they have until August 31st to submit it, so there's still some students that have started their fall semester
Yes.
at university that suddenly then they're not eligible for update.
Exactly.
So,
and that's one of the things we want to make sure that the school and the universities understand. Just because they're not on the master roster for day one, please keep repulling it, because we had that, like, oh, we pulled it back at the beginning of the semester. No, that master roster is updated every Friday. It tells you if students are added, it's because we processed them and they might have had a change. So,
And twice a week, only 6 days a week.
yeah.
When you say every Friday, like, is it year round or is it, okay?
Because there can be changes throughout.
For an exception, for whatever reason, they might have been ineligible originally Monday and then, they had a meeting, we went and put it in the system Friday, all of a sudden, oh, they're eligible now.
They could have been suspended and we got additional grades.
Right.
You know, all kinds
But if they're in a practice, they've until August 31st.
to submit, yes.
To submit the new grade so that we can run eligibility for them.
Yes.
Right.
And I had a student this past week that didn't know where his exam was and said, no, we're going to change it. Student was student process with that, so, yeah. She was really bad at the college program. She just got those.
Any other updates on that particular one?
On 356, yeah, that is it. One more, Act 211 of last year implemented the computer science requirement. Act 268 of this year pushed it back to 2030, 2031 graduates, which is great for the schools. Okay, with respect to war equivalents, and apparently I did not update this, it's in the rulemaking. If anybody looked at it, there were 4 additions for 4 languages. Creative writing was approved by Bessie and Regents in April. So that will be added as an equivalent to art. IB psychology is going to be added as an equivalent to the sciences, the social studies, just like AP psychology. And there was a proposal to add IB sports medicine and health as an equivalent to biology too. The colleges rejected that. So that is not going to go into effect. So if you saw it, we'll make it will be. And that is all, unless
This
anybody has
computer
questions.
science, it got pushed back to 2031.
The computer science. 20.
30.
It was already 2031. I was kidding.
Yeah, that's what, 31.
Okay.
All right, motion to approve this one. Christie, second. Brad, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion carries. Number 4, that the LOSFA advisory board consider the attached request for exception to the top statutory provision that requires a student to begin a home study program no later than the end of the 10th grade.
I'm sorry. Ryan, you still with us because my Zoom's spinning. I'm so sorry. Hang on 1 second. Ryan,
Yes, can you repeat that?
my Zoom's spinning. Are we still recording online?
Yes, we're still live on YouTube.
Okay, great.
Are we ready?
Yes, we do.
Okay, did anybody have any questions about Justin, our one student? No.
Right, motion to approve that exception. I think I got Mary Ann and then I got Lindsay in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Last one. That the advisory board consider the attached request for exception to the TOPS regulatory provisions that require students to remain continuously enrolled and to earn the annual credit hours required during the academic year, and to the MJ Foster requirement that a student maintain continuous enrollment in school.
We have 24 students. If anybody has a question about a particular one, I will be happy to answer. But I don't need to go through all 24.
Sounds fabulous. Any questions about any of those? All right, motion to approve. Okay, we got Jamie in a second.
And I'll second.
We got Mary Catherine second. All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Motion carries. All right, is there any other business to discuss before we adjourn?
So our next meeting date is currently scheduled for August 6th, and we're looking to move that back because that's technically in 2 weeks. So, yeah.
So not weird.
Yeah. So it'll probably be more toward the end of August. Another option, we're looking to maybe move up the September meeting to like the 1st or 2nd week in September. But if y'all have any conflicts with that, just email me and let me know. And also want to let y'all know that every 2 years, we have to get new appointments or recertify your appointment. So appointment letters will go out to your various boards and stuff, by August 1st. So it'll be sometime between tomorrow and next Wednesday that those letters will be emailed. So, but if you want to give them a heads up or you're willing to continue to serve, just let that appointing authority know.
All right, can I have a motion to adjourn? Brad, motion and a second, we have Christie, all in favor say aye. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Y'all have lunch back there, you have